good.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Teslin. He called me Teslon, but it's okay. I'm kind of like Teflon Don, so I'll go with that. I'll answer to that. So good morning, everybody. I came in from Houston this morning, so very excited to be here. Thank you so much for the TAC for allowing me this opportunity again. And special shout out to Mr. Don Mooney with Don Mooney Enterprises. Can you wave your hand, Mr. Mooney? Where are you? Right there? Okay, for being a great mentor and partner of mine, and for allowing me to be here. I kind of sound like a reverend, don't I? When you know how you getting his papers together and saying, I want to thank you for being here this morning. So you'll get a little bit of that. You'll get a little bit of pastoral, comedian, as well as commentary. So we have about 40 minutes this morning, so it'll be moving fast, rapid pace, because I want to give all of our panelists an opportunity to speak and give you some insight and 3 strong takeaway actionable items for everybody in the room. I'm going to bring up Mr. Brian, and he said he pronounces his name fun to know, so we'll see if he's fun to know. Brian, do you want to come on up? He has a BA in economics and a minor in computer science and business management from the University of Texas at Austin. Brian has worked for and consulted for Fortune 1000 and small and medium-sized companies, helping to improve information technology services, digital advertising, digital marketing campaigns, creative branding, and design. Fun to Know has provided thought leadership on a national scale, speaking at various conferences and community events, and is active in the Austin startup and innovation scene. Fun to Know is also leads the BLF Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit focused on college student retention, development, and graduation. A nice round of applause. You deserve it, you earned it. Next we have Kyle Hayung. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Kyle, in capturing opportunities by closing exclusive deals, creating and implementing marketing strategies and building multi-million-dollar businesses has led him to one of the entrepreneurs below 25 people to watch. He has been nationally recognized for his sales engineering by successfully raising over $25,000. Oh, 25 million, I apologize. That was an insult. Did you see the way he looked at me and said, did y'all catch the side eye? He said, no, 25 million, let's get the numbers straight. Numbers do matter. 25 million. Hey, but anybody ever raised 25,000? That's not easy to do either, amen? I do like amens. The more amens, the faster I go. $25 million in funding for new company, as well as bootstrapping 3 companies in the last 5 years that has done over $10 million in sales. Kyle looks at all aspects of business and determines the value add immediately while developing the correct team to execute swiftly in all areas. Correct team is important. Another shameless plug for Mr. Mooney. They can help you with all of your teaming needs at HR. Did y'all see how I slide that? Kind of put that plug in there. Okay. Xavier Tosin. Hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Okay, come on, Xavier. It's kind of like a pageant. You know how you read and they walk up? Over the last 14 years, Xavier has honed his skills as a versatile information technology business and marketing professional. He is the founder and CEO of Stash Media Group, LLC, a multimedia marketing and creative consulting agency. The company has launched many local and national brands across the United States. Prior to owning his own agency, he was enlisted in the United States Air Force. Let's just take a pause for the cause. I am also an airwoman, M60 gunner, 23-pound weapon. Cool. Amen. I don't look like it, do it, but I can take any of you down, and if you'd like to see, meet me after the panel. Before retiring in 2013, he has an MBA in marketing and undergraduate degree in information technology, multimedia, visual communication. Also a member of Alpha Phi fraternity, the NAACP, San Antonio branch, and alumni of the FBI Citizens Academy. He's also being named 40 under 40 for the 2018 San Antonio Business Journal. Me too, Xavier, Orlando Business Journal. We got a lot in common. I know this is not meetup.com, but we have a little bit in common. When I was reading, I was named by AKA too, just in case you're taking notes. You'll notice I'll slide in my advertisement as we go. So just bear with me. So welcome, Xavier. He gets a round of applause too. And I will mispronounce his name, but I believe it's Shoker Nakpoti. Is that it? Standing 6'5", tall, dark, and lovely, CEO of the mighty group, Dream Voice LLC, presenters of the Dream Walk. Is it Walk, correct? Week, sorry. From Lagos, Nigeria, educated in Leeds, England, so that lets you know that he is well-traveled. The Mighty Group, advertising for community empowerment. Dream Voice is the largest summit in Texas for equality, tolerance, and diversity. Let's welcome. Now, they all have very long bios, and I do too, so I encourage everybody to please, when you get a moment, Google these gentlemen to see what they have done and how they can possibly help your business move forward. So we have a quick panel, as I mentioned, 40 minutes. That's a short time when you have about 4 people that you want to get insight from, including my jokes as well. So we're going to move really fast and try to give you some information, and also they have asked that we allow some time at the end for questions. This is marketing and engagement, traditional and social media. Traditional media is something that you probably have heard of before. It's called TV, radio. I know everybody's on social media now, but there is something called TV, radio as well, and print. So that's what traditional is. And then social media, what currently obviously drives a lot, everything from politics to government to business. And so we want to talk about how some of the advantages and disadvantages on how you're able to use those for your business. But again, this is something that can go really, really deep on every subtopic. So I encourage the chamber, I encourage the governor's office to continue these series so that you can really get down to a lot of these subtopics. This is just really an overview, and hopefully you'll gain something from it. Although social media seems to own the day, there is, again, as I mentioned, traditional media. We're going to start with, and so that way for those who are taking notes, I'm going to make it real easy. We have topics and subtopics, and I'm going to cover a few points. One will be data, what you do with the data. The second will be image. The third will be engagement, and then the fourth will be agility. So that should give us enough to kind of get an idea. My panelists are such experts, this will be impromptu. I don't believe in scripted. They have to do just like I do on Fox, and just better know your game and put your head in the game and have the right answer. So we're going to see what they know. For 200, we're going to start with data. So I'm going to ask Mr. Fontenot. Data and what you do with it, there's advantages and disadvantages. 2 things we're talking about: traditional, radio, print, and TV, and then we have social media. I've asked the gentlemen to talk about what their expertise is, what they feel is the best advantage for you, but I'm going to try to weave in some pointers on both of them for those of you who may be still interested in the good old-fashioned traditional data. But social media gathers data and metrics a little bit deeper than your traditional TV advertisement. TV advertisement, every week I look at our numbers, 1.2 million in all viewers, and then we have matrix that are designed for anybody from 25 to 54, because those are the individuals that are constantly buying, consuming, the people that you want to actually engage and to present, to be in front of. So Brian, can you give me, on your expertise, some of the matrix advantages, and particularly with social media, since you focus a lot on that, on how they can find that data, what they should be doing with that data, and how versatile is it? For example, Twitter goes very deep, Facebook goes even deeper, as we saw with investigations, obviously. But what they can use with that data and how helpful it is.
Definitely. So my favorite restaurant is Grand Lux Cafe. And you probably can go on Instagram, you might go on Twitter, you might go maybe on Facebook, and you're going to find pictures of my favorite meals and favorite things I love. And in fact, I've made a community of friends who also love Grand Lux because they've been able to find me because of social media. And what I mean by that is that social media is an ongoing conversation. A lot of people look at it as, oh, it's something that my kids do. They post the pictures, they make funny selfies, and they're showing off to their friends. But there are conversations that are always happening on social media, and you're able to leverage that information really for market insights. Previously, before, you may go down to a economic office to get information about the people who moved into a certain area. You wanted to market to a certain zip code. You'd like to know what kind of salaries that people had, what types of jobs and careers. Now with social media, you're able to understand all that data real time because they're having these conversations every single day about products and services and things that they need. And as you, as a business owner, you have the ability to kind of tap into that and really get the insights of understanding, I want to launch a new product maybe in San Antonio. What are people saying in San Antonio about the things that they need, the things that they like, the things that maybe they don't really like as well? It helps you to get really a leg up on your competition by knowing and really having an ear into what people are saying. But also the other piece is you can join that conversation too. And that's what makes really effective marketing on social media, when you're able to converse with people and be able to take the data that you're receiving, implant yourself in the conversation, get that feedback, which you might have done previously before using a focus group or even just inviting people and asking your neighbor, hey, what do you think about this? So the big implications of data is if you use it correctly, it's going to give you insights into your clientele that could make you stand out amongst all of your competition.
Thank you. So on the traditional media side, Xavier, I know you focus a lot on branding, multimedia, visual, information technology. So I want to throw this question to you on traditional media, on that data, and the importance of advertisement placement, and how, when I mentioned the 25 to 54, the demos, and how that data is used, and then how do you find that data? What should they be looking at on some actionable items, on what type of actual television or print or any of those traditional media that they should be purchasing and investing in?
Well, good morning. That's a hard question. I think when you're gathering data via the traditional route, you're doing those legacy, like going to the library, researching your market to see exactly where they are, what's your customer profile look like. You're able to gather data from insights, newspapers. You're able to gather information from. It's very, very how can I say? You're talking paper documents. You're talking data via reports, annual reports, community reports, your local chamber of commerce. That's where I would pretty much get my data to provide deliverables via the traditional route.
Mm-hmm. So what Xavier's basically saying is target marketing is important. Where you spend your money is important to make sure that you actually get a return, on your investment. Advertising, as everybody here knows, it's just like a billboard sign. You really don't know, who is responding, especially in traditional media. Social media does give you a little bit more advantage, because if I were to ask people in the room how many of you actually know how many impressions you get versus how many engagements you get on social media, probably most people don't know, because they just don't take the time to actually see who's actually engaged. And that's why traditional media does divide it between all viewers versus demo, because that's where we're competing at all times, who's actually consuming and who's actually buying. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. And I'm going to loop back around on a lot of this, but I want to make sure that we get our topics in on the time allowed. So we're going to loop back around. So if you have questions to go a little bit deeper at the end, please do save them. Our next topic, we're going to talk about image quickly. And Kyle, I'm going to start with you on this. So social media image is really important, especially right now in today's political environment. What type of image, and when I say political, I don't mean you're not getting a political speech from me. I'm just talking about, everything that's going on. When you talk about if Uber says, if something happens to Uber and everybody hashtags, don't get on Uber or don't buy, Grubhub. I work a lot in crisis communication, so image is really important, the brand that you're putting out there, and also how you're planning that crisis that could possibly happen to you. So image has a lot to do with it. So I'm going to start with Kyle on this. When we look at branding and image for companies, a lot of companies will just say, let me just sign up for everything across the board. Let me sign up for Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and it's not LinkedIn, and it's not necessarily specific to their business. Can you talk about the type of businesses that are probably more suited for more of a conservative medium like a LinkedIn versus the Instagram, how those images can be used in those various forms on social media?
Sure. So when I think of image, it's like what's going to come first of mind when you hear that company's name or that individual, because there's companies where it's personal brands. It's not necessarily a brick and mortar or a food truck or an online business. It could be somebody that's doing online fitness classes, and they have 1 million followers on Instagram, and they started some kind of online course or educational courses. So image, it's a very broad kind of spectrum that you need to look at. So I think it first starts with, who's your target customer, who are you going after, who do you want to go after you, and who do you want to find you, and that's kind of where image starts. And then you think of branding, whether it's a logo, whether it's an icon, whether it's a color. So there's kind of, I think, a phase or steps that you would go through when you're trying to create a good image. So it would start with those things, and then so once you have kind of an idea of who your target, because if you're building an image or a brand, it's obviously you're trying to sell something, or help somebody, like for a nonprofit or something. So I think to start it would be figuring out those things, and then to be able to promote that image and keep a good brand or have a positive following, I guess. Then it's getting credibility, and how are you going to get credibility? So if you're a business that's servicing customers, well, you're going to want your customers to tag your business or check in or leave a review, and then you have to set up the infrastructure, the ability for them to do that. They're not, it just isn't going to fall into your social media where they can leave a review. You have to set those features up. So then it's, setting the different tools and things that are out there, whether it's digital, traditional. I mean, it could be a survey card on the table of a restaurant, or it could be a survey on the social media. When they go to your page, it automatically pops up and it auto-fills the survey, makes it easy for them. So I think, those are the things that comes to my mind when you're trying to build an image is first, figure out who you're trying to, I guess, impress or who you're trying to target, or what you're trying to capture, and then from there you're gonna have to build some kind of brand or identity, and then coming up with the different ways to build that good image or that brand that you're trying to create.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And you touched on actually what our next topic is, an engagement. But I did want to piggyback just to give you guys on the best social media platform for you. So for example, Mr. Mooney's an HR firm. He doesn't necessarily need Instagram, right? Unless he's posting pictures of people sitting at desks looking HR-like. So LinkedIn is a good source, where you're constantly networking and trying to get connections with other people, making those connections. Unless you're like me, I hide all my contacts because you need to hire me. But there are people out there that do share their contacts, and so making that connection is important, on LinkedIn. Or Twitter, for example, if he's constantly sharing HR news and updates, and Chambers should certainly be using Twitter because that's what I use primarily for a news feed. But if you have a restaurant, you should definitely be engaging with Instagram. People need to see your food. They need to see what you're offering. They need to see if you're a flower shop. So spend time on working with professionals on what actually works for you. The worst thing is having companies that have pages set up everywhere, and half of them are debunked, are not involved, or you got one person in HR trying to manage Instagram, Snapchat, so LinkedIn, and half of the pages are just not involved because your customers aren't there, and so that looks bad on a business. I immediately, when working with a client, I look to see what your engagement is and how many people are involved with you. But Snapchat, even though that's for teenagers, it worked. It worked in political season. Bernie Sanders used it. It did a tremendous amount of branding for him with the millennial voters. So do look more into that. I wish we had more time to talk about just that alone, because that could be a whole session by itself. But do consult our experts here after the panel to talk more about that. That's Shakir, right? I'm going to pronounce this right before it's over.
Okay, well, Shokare.
Shokari.
No accent. Shokare.
Shokari. Okay.
Ray.
Okay, Shokari. So let me write it down. Shokari. Okay. Ray. Okay.
Ray me.
Shokari, like don't worry me. Okay, Shokari. Ray.
Thank
Is there a
you.
nickname? Can I just say Mr. S?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Show? Oh, for sure. Oh, okay. Well, we'll go with that. I like that, for sure. Anybody here know what for sure mean? By hand up. Raise your hand. Okay. So, okay. So we're going to go with show on this one. I like that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about engagement. Kyle talked a little bit about making sure that you're staying engaged with customers. A lot of people don't know what engagement means. Engagement is not just posting something and expecting everybody to just, like Kyle so eloquently put, just show up. There is something called you being engaged with them. That's why it's called social media, and them actually being engaged with you. Vice versa. It is a two-way love conversation. But there's a downside to engagement as well. So two things. We have social media engagement, and then we have traditional. I'm going to ask Sho to talk a little bit about, I want to hit on this point specifically. Social media has great advantages, quick, rapid response. I was listening to someone last week say, I love flying on American Airlines because if I have a complaint, I can put it on Twitter and they immediately respond right now. And, you don't have to worry about going through the customer service line, which is more your traditional, style of interacting. But Twitter allows you to be able to handle a complaint right now, or in HR on Glassdoor. We talked a lot about that, about how people say, I showed up to a bad assignment, and you're able to immediately go on and say, oh, sorry, that assignment didn't work out for you, or how many times have you made a complaint about a restaurant, and they're able to immediately say that. So there's some downsides to that as well, which I would love to go over if we have more time. But I want Sho to talk a little bit about the importance of having that quick, rapid response. That's more on the quality control side, but let's talk about the importance of interacting with your clients opposed to just posting a random article in the social media space. And then I want to talk about traditional. How do you interact with traditional media? How do you interact with an article? So I'm going to ask Sho to talk a little bit about the social media side, and if there's another panelist that just wants to chime in on the traditional side, I want somebody to handle that question as well. How do you interact with a TV commercial? So let's first start with social media with Sho in the importance of engagement.
First of all, I think you should be sitting down here with us. It's actually great to listen.
Oh yeah, y'all gonna get my advice whether y'all like it or not. I'm gonna slide it in. I drove 3 hours. I gotta get my little advice in too. But thank you though.
Well, social media, I don't know where to start, but it's getting to be a very crowded space. So we have to imagine, you have to remember that every second, every minute, that space is getting expanded, and it's exponential. So it's not like you're driving down the highway and you see maybe 100 billboards. We have a gazillion. So the idea to just have this engagement just thrown up, it's getting kind of a lazy way of actually approaching one's client. So we have a strategy in my own agency that demands a clear and direct path. So if I need to reach you, I need to make sure that I actually reached you. And what that means is that you may not respond in the way that we expect or we wish, but ultimately you have that information. So we want to. The first idea is to make sure that one understands that just getting the word out there doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily incur a favorable response. That's number one. And that response in itself will change or demand you to make adjustments to your own offering again in the first place. So it's kind of a very cyclical thing, right? And so using your example of engaging a company and somebody has an issue with some service issue, what happens is that maybe you have 10 to 100 more people say, you know what, I had the same issue, or I had a similar issue, then you start to sort of understand a little bit more about what a subgroup believe in. Yet you have a championing group that says, no, that's not what my experience was. What do you decide? So in that case, how do you decide which way to go when you have 100 people saying you guys are providing the best service ever, and this other group are saying, no, you don't? That's where you really have to make sure that with social media, it's not the responses and the engagement is not necessarily something that you can use to measure success necessarily, but use to measure the passion that people have for what you offer. Mm-hmm. I hope that makes sense. It's a very, very subtle thing, but it's very important. Dream Week is an activity that we put up here a summit that we put up here every January. And our approach, for example, was to go out to different corporations and nonprofits to promote ways to support tolerance, diversity, and equality. But in putting ourselves in that space and engaging a whole bunch of people, we've put ourselves in a position where we are seen as the kind of the gurus of tolerance, diversity, and equality, and that's not the truth. The idea is, what those things mean to other people is as important as what it means to us. In other words, we all have the answers. So a way of engaging clients is also a way of demanding knowledge about how you view your own services and how you provide those services. So they are as much part of your decision making as the offering in the first place. And it always going to change. So it's not a kind of a black and white issue. It's always going to be something that it's a kind of a call and response, and it just keeps going in a cyclical fashion.
So just to piggyback on that, so two hints I want to give you, because my job said to make sure you get actionable items that you can do. So he talk a lot, and we do a lot of advocacy type work, so we use social media quite a bit. Hashtags are very important, but also understand when hashtags are relative to you. Show did speak about image, things that are important to you, so I caution you, be careful with that, because it can be something that a lot of your customers may not agree with. So there's a thin line. I tell people all the time, either you want to be in business or do you want me to run you for commissioner? You're going to have to make a decision. Business owners typically don't do well trying to push certain issues unless it's something that is founded in the principles of your organization, like with Show's organization. But there are ways where you can get some of those clients to engage with you when you have a hot topic. So my client this week is Cut 50 Van Jones organization, cutting mass incarceration in all 50 states. This week, the bill, very proud to be a part of that campaign. The bill is going to the floor tomorrow with Senator McConnell. Show talked about a lot of mess going on. So right now you got Cohen going on. You got Trump tweeting every 2 seconds. You have what else is going on in the media? Constant stuff that's filtering. How does Mr. Mooney take advantage of First Step Back? So if he's tweeting, making a tweet, so let's say he has a program where he is hiring those who have been incarcerated before, or different programs that he might be working with second chance offenders, or how there's maybe a labor job out there that's hiring people, forklift drivers that have second chance offenders. Those are ways when you have hot topics like hashtag First Step Back, where Mr. Mooney can actually say, the leading, and I'm just saying that this is not his brand, I'm just giving an example how you can merge into anything. Contact San Antonio's leading HR firm. We're in business to give citizens second chance offenders an opportunity, a chance to work. Hashtag First Step Back. And so now immediately all of your company now pops up in an issue that's not necessarily directed to you, but now pops up in the filter of everyone else. Also, take advantage of hashtag and Motivation Monday. Just because you don't think it's motivational, you want to try to ease in through the clutter and get in every time that you can. Or Women Crush Wednesday. How can you make women crush? Hey, stop by, have a donut shop. Stop by and get your favorite, wife a donut. Hashtag Women Crush Wednesday. So there's always creative ways that no matter what business you have, that you can kind of filter through the mess. And then as Show talked about, still making sure, because you don't get a lot of results from that necessarily, but still making sure that you're spending time actually targeted on the actual age, demographic, zip code, that is specific to your business. But I wanted to give you that little tip because that's how I push through a lot of stuff on social media. Speak to traditional, and how can somebody get something from an article? And we know that there's readers, but how can they get something from TV and an article specifically to engagement?
Well, I'll say, first off, digital, one thing that traditional has over digital is the authenticity factor, the emotional connectivity. With digital, you're following, right now digital is in that curve where it's a hybrid. People are using a little bit of digital, a little bit of traditional media marketing to reach their target audience. Digital still has that feeling where you're following the regular theme of what everyone else is doing, the Women Crush Wednesday or everything else. Traditional, you're touching, you're feeling, you're sensing. And those are still the human factors. And that's how you're going to actually, that's still important in today's, and that's something that technology has not figured out how to do well yet. So there's a place for traditional. Say, for instance, let's see, billboards. We're targeting people who are driving. So I know my customer drives on a highway. What's the main highway they're driving on? Where do I want my lawyer client to put up his billboard? What's the most frequently driven highway? Where do most of the accidents occur? That's where we're going to probably place that billboard. And the thing about billboards in traditional media is you don't know it's working until you need it, right? So you're driving down, you see something that says, "Hey, call Attorney Mac." I'll just, plug my frat brother there. Call Attorney Mac, and you don't pay attention to it. But that brand awareness is loading to your subconscious, and so as soon as you get in an accident, you're like, "Man, who can I call?" "Oh, Attorney Mac. I seen it on the billboard." So it's working, but you don't know it, and so. Once again, starting out, defining your goal if you're going to be marketing via billboard. What do you want to happen? Do you want your drivers on that highway to contact you if they get in an accident? Do you want them to contact you if you're selling a certain, I don't know, if you own a Chipotle, right? They're hungry. What highways are they going to use if they're trying to get to restaurants, to your restaurant? That's important. Define your goal, know your audience, and then find a medium that's going to work best for you. But again, I'll wrap it up again. Traditional has that way of using the 5 senses, where digital marketing does not yet. And so engagement is really about authenticity and knowing your audience.
So can I get an amen from the panel on how hard it is to sell media to clients? Is that amen?
Amen.
Kyle, amen? I'm going to pass it. I need it all the way across the board. Yeah, all the way across the room. So piggybacking on what he said, it is hard to get you guys, well, not you guys specifically, but hard to get people to understand the value of traditional media, to really understand what placing an article does for you, because a lot of people won't come in and say, "Hey, I saw that billboard," like he was mentioning, but it does work. Those impressions work over and over. I love Mr. Mooney because he's about the bottom line. He want to know, did the billboard bring in somebody and how much, so that we want to see that immediate result. But media is so hard because you're constantly trying to get messages out in a very cluttered world. So do take time to work with experts to see how an article, because one good thing about tradition, I'm sure you guys would agree, those mediums have become a little bit more affordable now that everybody's kind of moving over to social media. I'm not talking about Fox News because they're going to hit you for a couple $100,000 every 30 seconds, but your local stations, advertisement that you can get in the middle of the night, or different articles. It is, newspapers are always looking for content. So posting an op-ed about your business, posting something just in general that you can give to your local paper. You'll be surprised how those things can manifest and come in and actually have a return for you. Did you had something on that? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a super quick question. Look, for example, I don't know how many people here, about 500? So let's imagine all 500 people here were invited to an event, and we actually sent an invitation to them. Each person here, you get an invitation at home, in your office somewhere, or you're invited through maybe Facebook as an alternative. Just show of hands, what would you prefer as an invitation to an event? Maybe my special Christmas party. Which one would you, show of hands, digital or print? What would you prefer to receive in your inbox, or digital first? And mailed invitation. Wow. I thought it was going to be more mail, because I personally don't take that the digital stuff seriously. I just imagine somebody's going back there and just clicking send, as opposed to taking the time out to figure out who to invite. But
yeah,
just wanted to stress that.
That's a good point. I'm glad to see there was a show of hands of people that still would like. I prefer digital because I don't have time to. I don't even check the mailbox. I don't have time to go to the mail, look at it, do all that. So I prefer digital. But a way to get into your customers' postcard. There's an organization called Postcard Mania. And they're very affordable with sending out postcards, because a lot of people don't get mail anymore. They just don't. So that's a good way, depending on the type of product that you're offering, to get into. But for me, don't send me mail, because it'll never get open. Or don't leave voicemails either. That's another mail I don't like. Text only. Kyle, you had something, something on that?
Yeah, I mean, sorry. It's also, you have to think of like tracking things, like how are you going to know whether it works or not? So if you have a billboard, or if it's some kind of invitation, like you want to figure out ways to create some type of analytics so you can know whether it's working or not. Whether it's what we use a lot, because we own a mobile marketing technology that's based around text marketing, is texting. So it's like, to confirm, text this, and then we capture their data, and we're able to retarget them and do other things. And it's easy to, to short little, couple text figures or whatever. So that's one thing, is finding ways to be able to capture customer data and to be able to track your advertisements, whether it's through TV, billboard, social media, whatever it is. You can use promo codes, you can use text marketing. There's all kinds of open source text marketing platforms out there that are super cheap. There's also, they call them, it's like trackable downlines or affiliate marketing. There's really different tools out there that are very inexpensive, that will help you build just simple landing pages and have tracking things, to where if you're trying to build a network of salespeople or marketers, there's ways to do that and have everything tracked through very inexpensive tools that are online. Also, call to actions. Like, you want to make sure that you have good call to actions, and that you're giving people, it's like asking for the sale. If you don't ask for it, you're probably not going to get it. And so you have to find ways to entice people and convince them and convert them from a passerby to a converted lead, and get them into your sales funnel. So I just wanted to kind of chime in there.
And I know we only got a little bit to wrap up here, but what Kyle said is so important. We can, because people will scam you and say, oh, I can't tell who's looking at the billboard. I love the way Kyle said, let's look at the numbers, let's see. So a lot of times when I'm working with companies, especially politicians, who are hiring firms that don't have the goods that they say they do, and they're using social media, ask for that data. You should know how many impressions you're getting. Once you start asking, they say, 5,000 people looked at it. Okay, yeah, but great. How many people engaged? 500. Yeah, okay, I thought so. When you start getting down to those numbers, demand that number, because it's only so many times a media specialist should be able to tell you, we don't know if we get. No, you should be knowing. I should know that if I put something in the Dallas Gazette, 21,000 people in print will see it, 15,000 people online will see it. What's my net return on that? Politics, I would love to come back. This is me pitching. But the way things work in politics can work for your business. The me, you, us, what he's talking about, call to action. You never get a political ad that doesn't say, if only you gave me $3, pastors use it too. If just you and I, we can get that building fund together, and I can show that whole script to you. But the call to action is important. There's a whole training just on that alone, where to put that, where that placement goes, when do you make the ask, and so forth. But thank you, Kyle, for bringing that up, because before you hire a publicist, marketing, anybody, demand to see the numbers. And that goes into agility, which again, Kyle, you pushed us right into the next topic, agility. That is focusing, for those who don't know, it's about knowing how often you're putting something out there, generating those results. There's a science to it. It's not just, let's just put it on Facebook. Let's just run a TV commercial 47 times and no one shows up at the event. I've been in that position before. There is a science to the agility of it. So whatever panelist wants to take this, since we're slowly wrapping up, or if all of you want to comment on it, what is the importance? And give our colleagues, both social media and traditional, a couple of points on agility, on how often, when, and how they should be looking at that budget in those buckets.
Well, think about your daily schedule, right? You start in the morning, early morning, maybe get a coffee before you start your day to work. You're stuck in traffic sometimes and for 30 minutes to an hour. And the workday comes, you're looking for a lunch break so that you can find an opportunity for you to just take a break for the day. You may check a few emails, look on social media, and at the end of the day, once you come home from work, you're probably looking at primetime TV to be able to catch your favorite TV show or maybe a favorite sporting event. When you think about your daily schedule, it's also the same way you got to think about it with social media, because there's certain times where you can optimally get the most posts. For instance, 12 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays is the best time to send an email. That's when you're going to get the most open responses and probably the most click-through on any kind of links you include in the emails. When you're looking at social media posting, you can also think about the people's schedule that you're looking for. The lunchtime, a great hour for you to be able to make social media posts. When it comes primetime TV, it's a great time actually for brands to engage with people, because during the Super Bowl, if you look at some of the big restaurant brands, when somebody makes a joke or a name during the Super Bowl, they are quick to send a tweet or a message, and then instantly they're capturing millions of followers for free. They didn't have to pay for that. In the same way, when it comes to traditional media, it's the same thing. Now think about the Super Bowl. There are some commercials during the Super Bowl that we will still talk about months after. I mean, every year there's a competition for who has the best and most memorable Super Bowl commercial. You paid for the media, you caught it at the right time when most people are looking on traditional media, and now you're able to become memorable. And so with social media and even with traditional media, agility is all about becoming memorable to your customers and clients. You want yourself to be the first person they think of when it comes to a product or a service. But more importantly, now with the age of internet being everybody's pocket, look around and see everybody has a smartphone. Your customers are researching, getting information a lot of times without your input or improvement. So you have to kind of brand yourself or be posting or be sharing at the right times so that they eventually find the research from your pages, from your insights, and that helps kind of basically give them the information they need to eventually make a decision and eventually come to you to purchase those services.
Okay. So, first of all, if there's anybody in here that can afford a Super Bowl commercial, I will cancel my appointment with Fox in 30 minutes and wait for you after the panel, because those are going to hit you for about 10, 20 million. But I think he brought up a good point on how you weave in, which we talked about earlier. How do you capture some of those people as well while they're watching the Super Bowl with hashtags and so forth? Kyle, did you have, well, I know we got about 10 minutes, so yeah. You can either speak on something on agility or something just in general that we did not touch that we want to wrap up as we wrap up our panel.
I got a bunch of things. I had a whole list of stuff to talk about, but I can share it with people after if you guys want it. It's a bunch of good things that
Kyle's looking for business, so he has a list of things. So
no.
You don't want business?
Things
okay.
that you need to think about whenever you're going to spend money. You need to think about these things, and you need to have certain things in place, or you're going to lose money. So, and I don't think anybody here likes losing money, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, but agility, I didn't know what the exact definition of agility was, so I looked it up, and there's one word, and it's nimbleness. And so when I think of nimbleness, you got to be quick, you got to be agile, you got to be able to, and in order to do that, you need to use the tools that are out there. There's so many marketing tools that are out there that people don't even know exist. And so I'm just going to fire through, I called it my tricks list, but do competitive analysis. Go find your best competitors or the companies that just got big funding from an angel or VC fund that have big marketing budgets, and they have the time and the resources to go do all the market research and do A/B testing and all the things to optimize your campaigns. So huge thing is doing competitive analysis, because you'll learn a lot and you'll see what the big boys are doing, and you can reverse engineer those things, whether it's user experience, whether it's content, and like anything to do with engagement. The second thing is reverse engineering the UX and the UI, the user experience and the user interface. I'm about to do a direct-to-consumer marketing campaign with an allergy technology where you can prick your finger, get 4 drops of blood, and test for 120 different allergens. We're going in reverse engineering 23andMe. Their whole user experience online, they spent all the money doing all the research. We're just copying it, and we're putting our content, our layout, and so and we did that in a week, so there's that. The next thing would be with the content, there's tools out there where you can literally copy and paste content and it'll rewrite it for you, and then you can obviously put your own mix into it. So you can find the best companies out there that are blogging all the good stuff, or going and finding all the good stuff on Forbes and Entrepreneur, reposting it, and you can go follow your competitors on Instagram and on Facebook and on their blogs and just take their content. And they already went and found it for you, so just repost it on your page.
Oh, wow.
The other thing, not reposting
I like that, though.
their
That's
content,
honest.
but like if it's an entrepreneur from Forbes,
Yeah, no,
something like
that's
that,
important. For
okay,
those
'cause you
you,
want to get your customers good content yourself.
for those of you that don't say, here's another tip. I don't know if any of you use Sales Genie. But that is an awesome tool that gives you competitive analysis on how much they spend, where they spend, how they
Yeah, how
spend,
much
and that's important.
Sales
But we're going to bring Kyle back for a whole 1 hour show to give on more
Hold on, I
detail.
got like 10 more
But-
things and we're
Yeah,
short
but
on
I want to
time.
get the other two gentlemen at the end because we got about 8 minutes, eight minutes or so to wrap up. But we do encourage to bring Kyle back, and him and I can just have a one-on-one Oprah style on all of the different advice that Kyle has for you
It's
guys.
the 25
Xavier,
million,
can you
Kyle.
give us some closing thoughts, either on agility or anything else you wanted to chime in on?
Absolutely. So all of this kind of comes back to just knowing your customer. That's what it. That's all it is. Knowing your customer, knowing their profile. We call it building avatars of your market segment. Who is your target audience? I see Chris. He looks like he likes Stacey Adams. So I'm going to reverse engineer on how customers acquire Stacey Adams because I want to target Chris. I'm going to use the right platforms, whether it's Instagram, using imagery to be able to target Chris. The great thing about these platforms and these data-driven social media platforms is that they're providing you with all of the insights. Like Fortuno, I think that's your name. He talked about knowing when your customer's online. Instagram is doing it now. They'll tell you when this person is online at 9 a.m. So now you know Stacey Adams, Chris, he's probably going to be on Instagram around about 9 a.m. So I'm going to target my campaigns towards 9 a.m. or around that area, 8, 9, 10, right? Because like he said, you're going to capture the bulk of it and you're not spending as much money. If we do, so I like customers to have a traditional and digital route. I like hybrid approaches because they both work. As Sho mentioned, raise your hands for digital, raise your hands for print. Half of the room, it was split. It was about 50-50. And so they both work, but you have to figure out where your customer is and how to reach them. And so good luck.
Very good. Just on that, that's really important on times. You guys will notice if you go Google anything in general, black hats, and if you're on Facebook, you'll notice how you see all of a sudden advertising for black hats popping up. Big Brother really is watching everything that we're doing. So use that to your advantage because people say, oh, all of a sudden I'm getting ads for black hats popping up everywhere. So Facebook does that very well, obviously, with the Russians, but we can have that discussion on another, but they are the best with knowing everything you do and every time you do it. But that's another conversation that we'll have later on. Go ahead and give us some closing thoughts. And then I think they want to take a couple of questions, but it is over at 10, I believe. So if we got a couple of questions, if you guys want to extend it, that's fine, as long as I'm done at about 10:20 or so, or the panel, what times work for you. Otherwise, we're going to start closing up with some closing thoughts.
Obviously, a robust budget helps. So the more you have, the more you can do. But I don't think it's a measure of success how much money you have. I think innovation always triumphs, ultimately. And that's why you have so-called influencers now on social media who really don't spend very much to attract a lot of engagement. So ultimately, you can't push a product that people do not want, no matter how much you have. You're just going to waste a lot of money. So I know a lot of clients have come to me in my 18 years of business and said, look, you know what, if I build this website and you do a phenomenal job, I'm going to have my business. And initially, yes, I would try and work with them, but these days I tend to, advise them and tell them they're going to be wasting their money because they have to have that idea first. These things are just tools. So ultimately, if you don't have something to offer and share and you're passionate about it, if it's just a means of making money, I can guarantee that there are probably 10,000 other people who've thought about it and thought about it much more intelligently than you have. So it's important to just sit down and think, well, I have this, and suddenly you start to really have the tools start to manifest themselves in front of you. I'm not trying to be metaphysical about this, but that's what happens. You'll find out that, hey, you know what, social media is going to work in this place. For example, we have a community leader here who I know for a fact will say word of mouth, and that comes from block working, knocking on doors is the way to go if you want to win elections in this place, right? So these are people, so for example, just quickly, a presidential election where there's a lot of money floating around, you still have people walking the streets and knocking on doors. Ultimately, they could just sit down and just text all day and social media all day. In the end, somebody believes in somebody because they believe that other people, if they haven't met this person or they haven't engaged this product, they believe in other people's opinions of what those things stand for. So let's don't overstate the idea that you have some money or you have a product that suddenly if you have A, B, C, D, this would happen. In the end, it takes innovation, it takes sacrifice, it takes passion, it takes inspiration. All those things ultimately triumph over. I always use the word trump, so I have to remember to use the word triumph. All these words always triumph over just a robust budget.
So we're at the close of our panel, unless you wanted to take, okay. So if we'll have a couple of questions for our panel. Any questions? That's in a question form, not a statement form. A question.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Kelly Lamkin, and I'm with FundMice. You guys talked a lot about engagement and data analytics. I think, Kyle, you talked about collecting those data. In terms of cybersecurity and regulatory requirement, how are you guys handling protecting the privacy of those data you collect? If you want to speak on that.
How are we handling what?
How are you handling protecting those data that you collect?
Like actually getting it?
Yes. How do you protect it?
How do you protect it?
Oh.
Cybersecurity, getting people's information, and how do you protect it?
Well, so we like when it comes to data that we're capturing to retarget and market to people. Is that what you're referring?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not. I don't know. I'm not really worried about a hacker coming in and trying to steal my cold leads. I mean, I'm not. Now, if it's like a healthcare, play where we're going into it, because I have a healthcare company and a business services company, but we're going into a clinic or a hospital and we're exporting their EMR data. Obviously there's HIPAA and we have to worry about that, and that, I mean, there's a lot more risk there and security levels, and you have to make sure and have it on certain servers if it's going to be in somebody's possession. So to do that, I mean, we have an IT department, we have dedicated servers where all of that kind of data is stored. If we're going to be doing marketing campaigns, we keep the data that's for healthcare, we keep the actual contact information, name, phone number, date of birth, address, separate from their actual healthcare data. I mean, actually, when we export the EMR systems, we don't even take the healthcare data, we just take the contact information, so there's no real HIPAA risk there. HIPAA is the Health Information Privacy Act, Portability Accountability Acts. And so that's that. As far as if it's just for like a consumer or like we're targeting a specific business, I mean, we're usually it's just email and our, or telemarketing, we do for new businesses. There's a, especially in Texas, you have this process of setting up a business. As you file a tax ID, you get an EIN, and so that information becomes public data. So there's ways to get that data from the state or from the counties, and then you have all these new people that are opening businesses. So it just I guess it depends what kind of data it is and how the specifics on the data, and that'll kind of determine how secure we have to keep it.
Okay. Did we have another? I want to make sure we get a couple of questions because we only have just a few moments. So let's I apologize, but I want to make sure we start wrapping up.
Hey, how you doing? So real quickly, I've encountered a lot of small business owners over the years who's wanted to transfer from traditional marketing over to digital marketing, and they will, pay money to build a website or to get a social media campaign going. But a lot of times, those websites or social media campaigns fail. So what is that most likely attributed to, in you guys' opinion, or what makes a website successful?
It's it's a mixture of things. I think, as Kyle mentioned before, these are tools, or somebody on the panel mentioned they were tools. So you have a website, but I always like to think of a website kind of like a brick and mortar place. You have a physical place that people go to. Is it appealing? Is it attractive? Does it provide value? If you have a restaurant, do people really mouth water when they see your food? Like, I should be like, man, I ain't going nowhere else but that restaurant because of what I see on social media online. Well, a lot of times we just get a website and the website doesn't serve a purpose. There's no journey. I like to call it the customer journey. When somebody goes to your website, there should be actions that they take that ultimately end up getting to a certain point. That endpoint should be a phone call or email asking about your services. But a lot of times we're not planning when we're putting together the website or social media campaign. We're posting, hey, this is our business and we exist. And people are asking, yeah, but why? What do you do? How's that going to help me? How's it going to save me 20 and 30 minutes out of my day that I can actually go spend time with my kids? So it really goes into the planning purposes, which is the point of looking at any one of our experts on this panel and saying, hey, I want to work with you to help achieve a certain goal, and allowing somebody that has the expertise and understanding what is that planning process, how do we get to the ultimate end goal of what you want people to do utilizing social media or a website.
And I'll piggyback on that. Here in San Antonio, a lot of businesses don't even have websites, and then when they do decide to get a website, it just sits there. A lot of people don't even know it exists, and so a lot of things that back up once you do build out that hub, which is that brick and mortar that he was talking about, is you add in different services like digital marketing, where you're doing SEO campaigns, or you're doing pay-per-click campaigns, or you're doing some search engine optimization, or other digital marketing practices to lead people back to that site. And then once they get there, does it increase? Are you increasing your traffic? Are you driving customer conversions, meaning people are actually buying what you're selling? And so it's all about a process, right? So first, once you get online, now you have to figure out how do you drive people to that website, and once they get there, where are they going?
Okay, so I guess that's about our time. First of all, normally my instructions said, ask the panelists if they want to give you some questions, and I don't believe in that. I have to get script. I don't get a script, so they don't get a script either. When I go on TV, I love people that know what they know, so I certainly want to give a big shout out to our experts who did not have any scripted material. They came right off the top of their head. Let's give them a round of applause. We look forward to coming back again. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us. Well, I want to go into your networking hour. I am accepting love offerings at the back. We have ushers at the back of the door that will gladly accept any love offerings that you have. Please network with these gentlemen, get more into the conversation, and hopefully ask for us back. I love coming back, driving 3.5 hours in the rain just to talk to you guys and to help your business grow. You can reach me at www.teslandfigaro.com. Thank you so much, guys.